afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today as we host Dustin Perry, CEO of Kingfisher Metals. Kingfisher trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol KFR, and just last week began trading on the OTCQB KGFMF. There will be forward-looking statements in this presentation today, so please visit the company's website for further information. And as always, there will be a Q&A, so please feel free to input your questions into the Q&A box. The company is exploring their large package for gold and copper in British Columbia, and today's news release entails a drilling update on their 5,000-meter drill program at the Gold Range project. Dustin, welcome. It appears you're hitting some good stuff up there, and thanks for joining us. Please walk us through.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, so I just got back from Gold Range. I was up there for about 8 days. That was my 6th time on the project this summer. It might be my last time now, but we're making good progress. So we put out some details on 9 holes in that news release that went out today. I think we're currently almost completed our 10th hole yet, but that hadn't really got onto the core racks yet. What we're seeing though is looking really promising. So the first 3 holes we discussed in the previous news release back in August. Since then, really since hole 3, which we did talk about earlier on, since hole 3, we got down into the forest right within the main cloud drifter zone soil geochemical anomaly. And we've been testing the contacts with the upper diorite intrusion. So this intrusion sits in the forest. We did get some really nice results there last year, some channel sampling, some trenching, and really good soil grades within there. And what we're seeing is this contact above and below the intrusion is creating a substantial amount of alteration, and many different styles of mineralization can be found within those zones. So yeah, it's very encouraging so far.
All right, it sounds like it. So maybe we'll just kind of start broad and go granular, if you will.
Yep.
So you said you just came back, and it might be the last time. How often have you been to camp this season, Dustin?
For a while there, I was going every other week earlier in the season, and then mid-summer I was going about 1 week a month. And Dave Loretta was coming with me most of the time. The last 2 times I've been on site, Gail Febo, our VPX, has joined us. And this past one, Charlie Gregg was there as well, one of our advisors.
Excellent. And so you're finding all this mineralization contacts. Tell us more about what you're finding, please.
Yeah, so Gold Range, the entire project has a lot of orogenic gold targets. The cloud drifter trend and zone within that trend is an orogenic target. So basically, we're in a big mountain range, the Coast Range, and we're on the eastern side of it. And within mountain ranges, in order to build a mountain range, you get a lot of compression and forces that create a lot of high temperature fluids, and these fluids are carrying gold. They're stripping it from the underlying rocks and depositing it in fractures, and that's how you get veins pretty much anywhere in the world. We're in younger rocks though, so you still see the mountains, whereas in Ontario those have been eroded. And one function of that, of being in younger rocks, is that the upper levels of an orogenic system, the epizonal portion, still has the potential to be intact. There's not a lot of these globally because of that function of erosion, but where you do see them, you often see some really nice ones, like Donlin in Alaska, Coffee in the Yukon. So what we're seeing is a higher level system, which is different than the lower systems, mainly because mineralization can occur over a broader area. It doesn't just follow one vein. It can be more of a rectangular shape to a mineralized system. And what we're seeing has a lot of similarities with Donlin, and also with some other orogenic systems. But the big key component that we're really excited about is just the intensity of alteration and the wide variety of mineralization styles and sulfide minerals.
Yeah, I read this variety of sulfides. So for us non-geos, can you tell me why that's significant?
Well, so Gail Febo, our VPX, she's really good with a microscope and looking at thin sections, and she did a lot of that in her master's in her research at UBC. And she went through a lot of the rocks we sampled last year and was able to identify gold grains associated with a wide variety of sulfide minerals. we know it's associated with arsenopyrite, with arsenic, but it's also associated with chalcopyrite, bismuth sulfides or bismuthenites. And then also we're seeing it with sphalerite quite a bit, and then with pyrrhotite and pyrite. So we're seeing it with pretty much every sulfide mineral, and we're seeing all these different sulfides in drill core. So we know that there's potential for having gold with them, but just seeing this wide variety of sulfide minerals is really important, because the more complex the system is, the more potential it really has to generate good grades, because you often don't get all these different minerals at one time. You're getting them in different pulses of mineralization, and that indicates that you're in an environment that has just undergone a lot of deformation and continuous fluid flow, with hopefully gold coming into it.
Right. Thanks for explaining that. Now, so Gold Range, you have a huge soil anomaly that you're working off, right? That's vectoring the drill. And are you finding what you found on surface and what you're finding in the drill, is that congruent?
Yeah, so the soil anomaly was what caught our eye initially over a year ago, and we went there and had to further evaluate it and confirm it and tighten up the spacing. But then the mapping and the sampling, the rocks we saw in that, we are seeing those styles of mineralization, those lithologies, those rock types in drilling, but we're also seeing some other stuff that we didn't necessarily see at surface. The target is predominantly in the forest, and there's probably only about 1% outcrop. So when you're mapping it, you're using geophysics to kind of extrapolate your map, even using a bit of the geochem, the soil geochem, to extrapolate what you think are contacts and whatnot. And it looks like our first guess was pretty damn accurate based on what we're seeing in drilling. But we're seeing styles of mineralization that we didn't see on surface, really, that are really encouraging. But yes, we mapped a hydrothermal system, or Gail did last summer, and we were pretty sure there was one there, and we're definitely sure there's one there now.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. And so, yeah, you compare it to Donlin. Can you give a little more color on that? Or
yeah, so Donlin is a beast. It's, I'm not comparing it because I think we have 39 million ounces. We don't have assays yet for drilling, so I can't compare anything like that. And they've drilled there for decades. But from a geological standpoint, it is pretty damn similar. Similar geology, similar structural patterns. Mineralogy is pretty similar. Alteration is really similar. We've gone, last winter, we scoured all the journal databases for trying to find projects we could compare this to. And Donlin really stood out. And we've looked at some unpublished papers that have drill core in them. Drill core looks really similar in a lot of these sericite carbonate altered zones, where the intrusive is just stripped of all the mafic minerals, which are the dark minerals, and which pulls a lot of iron out of it and actually makes a good environment for precipitating gold. So we're seeing a lot of similarities in that regard. And then even looking at the historic drill sections and drill logs from Donlin, there's a lot in common. Just the density of veining, how you get these narrow veins that are really high grade that actually bulk up to something. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities. It's obviously way too early to compare anything about tonnage or grade, but from a geological standpoint, it's very similar. And Donlin's a weird system that nobody really has been able to peg down what it is, partly because nobody's found anything that looks like it. So who knows? Maybe there's another one out there.
yeah, I mean, fair enough. I imagine you need some model for which to build, compare your story and compare and contrast, right? So.
Well, it's always nice to have something that's been studied ad nauseum that you can compare your project to, because a lot of scientific work's already been done on that. And, yeah, there's a promotional aspect to it, but it's also just an exploration aspect. We want a working model of how these things might behave so we can tailor our exploration to that.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. And in terms of your drill program, so you have 5,000 meters that were planned and still are, as far as I understand, and you're about 3,700 in. Can you speak to?
So I think it was around 32 or so was the number in this release, and that did include a drill hole that was currently being drilled, which I think they're at about 500 meters now. So we're getting up there towards 4. Pretty soon we'll be moving to our final drill pad, which is down the mountain, targeting what we think might be a feeder zone to the entire mountain potentially. It's a north-south fault that had some really good grades in rock sampling up to almost 130 grams per ton. Soil samples delineate this fault up and down the mountain with a lot of samples over 1 gram. And then it sits not near the upper diorite, but near a lower quartz diorite that we only tested with 1 drill hole. So hole 7 it covered the most north-south width of the system so far, and it was the only hole that we got down into that quartz diorite, and we were pretty impressed to see a really nice sulfide breccia within that diorite, stretching over, the heart of it, maybe 5 meters, but more like 10 meters of really strong mineralization. It was the first hole down there. The nearest hole is probably 100 meters or more away from it. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing with this program, is testing quite a big area. We're not following up with 25-meter holes away from where they're going. There's going to be quite a bit of room of unknown, but also areas to vector in on in the coming drill programs.
Thank you. That's a really good explanation, because one of my questions was how far is the spacing average between the drill holes? So
yeah, well, the pads are 50 meters, but then the drills, they move at depth. So from surface they might be close, but further once you get into the mountain.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Dustin. And you talk about the structure of the geology, and it reminded me how Gail Febo, your VPX, is a structural geologist. You have such an interesting and experienced technical team. Do you want to speak about your technical advisors, about the knowledge base that's going into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll touch on Gail first. She's somebody I worked alongside for a long time. She has the structural knowledge to make sense of this, but she's the big key is for somebody that's so academic, she gets exploration, doesn't get bogged down in things that aren't going to lead us towards trying to find metal. Like, the whole point of what we're doing is not the science experiment, is you're trying to find a deposit, and that's first and foremost in her mind when she's in the field. But she's got the grit too. That's one thing that we've really tried to build within our team and cultivate the attitude of, well, being safe, but also just get her done. like bust your ass out there. You gotta get it done. And I think the fact that she's driven across BC twice now with a 5-month-old baby, I think that really speaks to that. Definitely, she has that mentality, which really helps us a lot. But in addition to her, so Charlie, he was just out there and he was really excited to see the rocks. He wasn't just impressed with the cloud drifter trend, though. He was quite impressed with we did a flyover of the project, and I guess he didn't really realize the extent of and the number of targets we had on this project, and how that will really affect us going forward with a steady supply of good targets. But within the drilling, yeah, the alteration impressed him. Anybody looking at this core, nobody's drilled around us anywhere near. So it's totally new and pretty exciting to see something like that. You're putting a new spot on a map.
Right, absolutely. And just back to the Charlie. I mean, who is this Charlie Greig?
Yeah, so Charlie's a geo. He's seen a ton of rocks, and the best geo is the one who's seen the most rocks. But he's worked with surveys. I was just talking to him. He said he was actually at one point staying in a lighthouse in the Queen Charlotte's, mapping in a zodiac. But no, he's worked in industry a lot, and he's a really commercial geologist, which is similar to Gail in that sense. They're really, really smart, crack geologists, but they get exploration. Charlie runs a consultancy now, but he's also been involved with multiple discoveries. The most recent one would be the Saddle North, or Saddle North, Saddle South, which was a similar story to what we're drilling. It was a strong geochemical anomaly, and that's what caught Charlie's eye early on. When prior to him coming on, we were communicating with him for a long time, as he was an early shareholder. But these big geochemical anomalies don't come out of nowhere. And they had hit some really nice, they found a new high grade gold system at Saddle South, and then they went on to find the Saddle North porphyry. But yeah, Charlie knows his way around BC rocks, and he knows a project looks exciting at a pretty quick glance. And he spent a full day reviewing all of our core and was pretty damn excited.
Well, I hear he's a very excellent person to have on the team. So it takes the team, right? So I imagine there's
100%.
there's good geological banter that goes on in the core shack. And
yeah.
And so it's more than just rocks, obviously, project and in British Columbia. Can you speak about the community and your ESG initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pretty new here. So we are at the earlier stages of ESG. We've completed quite a bit of community engagement. We've done some tours of the site with local First Nation councillors. But the big key, in my opinion, is hiring as many people as possible, making them feel part of the team, and letting them see it from the inside out. So you're actually offering transparency up to the community and building trust that way. And we've got about a dozen people on site right now. And they're all doing a great job, and I'm hoping to have them all back next year. But in addition to that, we are sponsoring some local a hunting program, actually trying to get kids back to hunting. And we will be doing more meetings over the winter. We do have a 5-year permit, so we're good to go for 4 years after this, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop there. We'll continue to consult and engage with the local First Nation groups. In terms of other stakeholders, the place we're camped happens to be the helicopter company we're using, and they've been there for 3 generations, and they fully support us.
Well, it sounds like your approach is sound and the way responsible. I always like the hashtag responsible exploration.
Logical.
Yes, that too. Yeah, so you touched on permitting. So you're permitted at Gold Range, and let's jump into what your other priorities are in your portfolio.
So Extol is our copper gold project. That was our listing project. That's really what got Kingfisher started as a private company. It's a really prospective VMS project. I would say it's one of the most prospective versus high prospectivity, low exploration maturity copper districts in BC. So really good chance of making a discovery there. There's some difficulties though. Access is a little harder due to coastal weather. So you really want to have a helicopter on site for crew safety. So we are planning a drill program for there next year. We've been in the permitting process, and we've been essentially given the go-ahead from the government that we have been given the go-ahead to pay our reclamation bond. One of the things though is when you pay the reclamation bond, that kind of sets the clock on your permit. So we're just delaying that. You do need an archaeology survey, which we did at Gold Range as well. It's not a barrier to getting a permit, but you need it once you get the permit before you actually set foot on the property in that sense. So we're advancing that. We are doing work there this summer, a property-wide LiDAR survey, and then gravity surveys on our top 2 targets. So we're getting them ready for drilling, and the goal is to drill them next year. We're unsure of whether it's going to be in Kingfisher at that point. We are entertaining the idea of potentially spinning that asset out so it gets more attention. That's up in the air right now. Focused on Gold Range right now. And then our third project though, Tibbert, we did a fair bit of work on it this year as well. Airborne magnetics, and a crew just wrapped up stream sediment sampling across that project.
Okay, great.
So
thank you.
Busy, and all of this will generate a lot of news flow over the winter in addition to Gold Range, and also at Gold Range, a lot of regional work.
Okay, tell us a little more about the regional work at Gold Range, please.
Well, it must be around 2,500 soil samples from regional work were done quite a while ago now. Actually, we brought most people into the core shack to handle all the core coming in, but we've found quite a few anomalies across the project with an XRF taking samples for arsenic, and we've gone back to a lot of these areas and found mineralization in float or an outcrop with quartz sulfide veining. So we're looking forward to releasing those results pretty quickly here. I think that might even come before drill data, but it's really encouraging. You know, we've said this is a district scale project, and I think it's showing those signs through mineralization across the north-south extent of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got your work cut out for you there at Gold Range. And the arsenic, I'm guessing, is that a pathfinder then? You look for arsenic as well?
Yeah. Arsenic is a common pathfinder for orogenic gold systems, really no matter what depth you're at, but specifically in the upper levels.
And I drove by ALS on the Dollarton Highway the other day, and they had a hiring sign. So do you think the labs can keep up with your production? When do you expect those?
Yeah, I hope in a couple of weeks we'll have some results. It looked like you can monitor the progress online. And it looks like they're getting there, but everything keeps on getting pushed back. You know, you get a date, when estimated date of completion, and then another 2 weeks, or another 3 weeks. So you know, it's out of our control. But once we get the results, we'll do QA/QC on them and get them up and get them on CDAR as quickly as possible.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. I think Kingfisher's been really good with keeping us up to date on your latest. And so we're just entering September now. What is your drill window looking like?
So we started a little later. We started first week of July this year, and then we'll be going until late September most likely. Rationale for that though isn't that we couldn't drill beyond those timeframes. We had to do IP earlier in the season. We had to build pads. We had to do a little bit more work. You know, we weren't set up to drill right at the beginning of the season. And then based on the budget and the amount of meters we want to drill, we're not going to go right till the end. We're seeing a lot of mineralization here that we didn't see at surface. So a lot of disseminated mineralization that it'd be hard to plan drill holes without that assay data in an efficient manner. You know, we could, but it wouldn't necessarily be following our kind of company mandate of trying to de-risk everything as much as possible. So I don't think we're going to expand the program. Plus it would be getting towards October, which is, you're generally going to pay more in standby time. So you really know what you're doing, no point. But yeah, we could start earlier next year. We're going to leave pads up, so we could start, and we probably will start in early May. So there is a longer working season here. It's just that it was the first season drilling it.
Yeah, I get that you have to line up the ducks really tight. Okay, cool. And so yeah, Dustin, if you could just kind of remind us, so like a year ago, you were excited about X, and today, can you like give us that sort of like that what you're excited about then and what excites you now, just to wrap that up?
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about the market because that's not particularly exciting right now. It's less exciting maybe than it was a year ago. But so Gold Range, when we picked it up, I was really excited. I love that part of BC. My dog's named Chilco, so you know, I love that part of BC, and I wanted to explore this soil geochemical anomaly. Didn't know how it was going to go. Had a big hunch that there was a big system there, and now what we're seeing are the signs of a large hydrothermal system. So I'm really excited with what's going to come of this, because seeing what I've seen so far, I know that this target's going to get many drill programs out of it. It's not going to be a one-hit wonder, and it will, you know, this was our best target within a much broader trend, and it's going to allow us to do larger drill programs and test the entirety of it, which there's a lot of unknowns here, and some of these unknowns are showing up as really nice mineralized corridors that we didn't see at surface. So I'm excited to see what happens once we really start putting a lot of holes into this and finding some of these nice zones.
Right on. Yeah, we're excited for you, Dustin. So that's cool. Let's just talk really briefly on your share structure. You had some warrants that are they being shaken loose or?
Yeah, so there was initially around 11 million, just shy of 11 million, 12.5 cent warrants with a 30-cent accelerator, and about 3 million of those have come in naturally so far, and we're at the point now where we are going to start pushing people to exercise those. We will likely force the rest of those once we've brought a lot of them in naturally. I don't want to, have them all forced right at once and potentially create downward pressure on the stock. So we're trying to go about it in a, calculated manner. But those will come free, and then the bulk of the remaining warrants are 50-cent warrants with a 75-cent accelerator that were associated with the IPO. So those will be hanging out until hopefully some good drill results might bring that money in too.
Yeah, here. Yeah, I was looking at your chart. You look like, Kingfisher has been nice and steady, holding in at about 50-51 today, and got tight share structure, 78 and change outstanding, shares outstanding, and today's volume was nice and healthy too. So
yeah, it's good to see a good volume. We have some really supportive shareholders that will continue to write checks for us. So it's that's a big part of why the stock's held up. A lot of solid hands.
Right. Well, we're excited for you, Dustin, and your team, and what's coming down the pipeline. So, if we want to start wrapping it up, let us know what the catalysts in the fall might look like, and then onwards.
Yeah. So the obvious catalysts are the drill results, which who knows how long they're going to take to get all of them out, but I would suspect it will be around at the end of the year that all of them will be out. But in addition to that, lots of regional work, a little bit of backpack drilling. We have found some new zones of mineralization, so we will be releasing those results. And then our target generation at Axstall for upcoming drill program, and some regional work at Tivert. So there will be a pretty steady stream, drill results interspersed with regional data, but a lot of news, and these are good projects, so there should be some good news in there.
Right on. That's music to my ears. And so, yeah, have we missed anything at all, Dustin, or did we cover?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think that, yeah, as usual, if anybody needs more info or wants a more detailed geological explanation, just call me up and we'll sort it out.
Right on. Yeah, I didn't see any audience questions, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Kingfisher's also quite active on social media, so if you want to see action, people, Chilco Dog at Kingfisher_KFR is the Twitter handle. And Dustin, thank you so much for joining us and giving us the update. Thank you to our audience for tuning in today.